What are you pointing to?
Nothing. I was just saying go up and skip the ad.
Okay.
Still waiting.
Go for it.
Welcome to From the Ground Up podcast. So this is our second one in 2 days, or should I say my second one in 2 days?
I was there in spirit last night.
Yeah, there was a shrimp incident.
Yeah, did you tell them? I was listening.
Not explicitly. I just said she just told me that she had bad shrimp, and that was all I got. And I don't know what that means.
That was explicit? What do you mean you don't know what that means? I had bad shrimp.
Okay, I guess it's a thing. I didn't know.
You can have bad anything. What are you talking about?
What do you mean?
You can have bad of any food. What do you mean? That's
yeah, but you ate it like 30 minutes before you.
And that's when stuff starts to make you feel
bad.
I
don't think so.
I've been feeling bad as soon as they finish eating my plate, but.
Well, either way, you weren't here.
Okay, Jesus. Great intro.
Thank you. Theportcitypythons.com. We have some animals available. Port City Pythons. We also have some shirts available. And what did you think of? I talked about it a second last night, but we went to Owens' place. What did you think about it? Seeing like all those large pythons for the first time that you haven't seen before. I haven't seen a lot of like Timor pythons. I don't think I've seen those in person.
Oh yeah. I don't really know.
You're just like, oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know what half of it is. So.
Wow.
You're acting like you're surprised. I don't really know what half of it is. So like, yeah, it was cool, but it's not like it was, if you don't know what it is before. I was excited to see the white lips. I always love that. And I loved telling Owen how he doesn't have space for the amount of babies he's gonna have. That was fun.
Yeah, what you did was tell Owen that he's gonna need more racks because you counted up every single female in the place and then everyone that's breeding supposedly, and then you decided that how many babies was he gonna have?
Potentially, Owen could have 409 babies this season, and I think he has like 60 open tubs or like.
No, it wasn't even close. That he said he's had like 200. And plus, you're assuming that everything's gonna breed. It's gonna be 100%.
I said potentially.
Yeah.
But you gotta be prepared.
But who does that when you go over someone's place?
Was that bitchy of me?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, Owen. I just wanted to open his eyes.
Wow. Now it sounds
bitchy. Okay. I just was really confused how he was gonna make it all work. There you go. I was confused and concerned.
You have troubles trusting people's intuition. Snake guys know. They're snakes. And they also.
But I was just being positive.
They always figure
and
it out.
hoping for the best, that his olive will go and our jungles will go and his Timors will go and all his corns and all his kings. I was being hopeful and positive because Owen is a great breeder.
Wow, you really made up for it that first half. I'm glad that cord snakes, we pretty much breed, whenever we want to, and I'm glad maybe you may be a little bit jaded on that end of the hopefulness of getting 100%. But I struck out with hognose and Louisiana pines last year too, so I guess I'm not batting 1,000, but we're doing that. What?
Justin called me out, and he called me Davis. That's weird. He says Davis show up for this show, but not ours. We explained. I was shrimped.
Shrimped.
There you go. I was shrimped.
But where were we? Portcitypythons.com.
We were not there, but okay.
Well, we thank our Patreon supporters for allowing us to just ramble randomly every single week. And this week we have on Greg Strait, and Greg is a wildlife technician. And we're going to talk a little bit about, herping, kind of how he got into reptiles. And it seems like he's done a lot of traveling and herping around the world. So, Greg, can you give us a little overview of who you are and kind of what you're interested in?
I'm interested in herps in general, in captivity and in the wild. I'm probably interested more in the wild than I am even in captivity. I'm doing as long as I can remember, really. I don't know. You want to start from like, day one or?
Well, did you have kind of a preference towards reptiles from the beginning, or were you into kind of all kinds of animals?
All creepy crawlies really, but hardcore with frogs. That's my earliest memories, is really being into frogs. As soon as I could walk, and I really just gravitated towards them. And then that really expanded to, all amphibian type habitats, and just reptiles, amphibians in general. But really, I think frogs were the big pull at first. Yeah.
And did you grow up in upstate New York?
Yep, I grew up in upstate New York, and I spent my summers in the Adirondacks, running around barefoot, catching frogs, spotted salamanders, all that stuff all the time. So that really was huge for me to have that space, and just collect stuff and explore and kind of get a feel for some of the natural history of these animals just kind of on my own, just anecdotally, just by going through the motions of looking and seeing a lot of these patterns and things. It was pretty cool. So that was huge for me. But it's really, since as long as I can remember, I have no knowledge of not being into reptiles and amphibians, honestly. It's weird.
And when did you start keeping them in captivity?
I didn't start doing that till I was probably 19 years old, 20. Yeah, so I didn't really, I kept some native stuff, bringing in the house for a while, killed a lot of stuff, dried out a lot of toads, overheated stuff. I learned, you put something in a little aquarium on the porch, and then the sun, moves across. Next thing you know, it's like baking by noon. So a lot of trial and error, stuff like that. But like real husbandry and experimenting with stuff was probably, 1920, and that was still real low key. But as soon as I heard about like poison dart frog work, oh man, that just took off from there, and I went like all in and did tons of research, and that it was in from there. It was over. And now you'll be the husbandry with poison dart frog stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And how did you kind of move on from like where have you herped in the U.S.?
I've herped North Carolina, South Carolina, New York, obviously, Pennsylvania, Ohio, a lot of just the East Coast, basically. On the East Coast, yeah.
Is there any kind of thing in particular that you like finding on the East Coast?
God, I love some of the turtles. Spotted turtles are awesome. Bog turtles are really cool. Wood turtles, a lot of turtles are great. I go to New Jersey. The Pine Barrens are really cool. Checking out some of the stuff right below me. Pine snakes are really neat down there. Hognose are always fun to find. Just about anything. I still love finding a little ringneck or red belly snake. I find them a handful every year, but it never gets old.
And I want to, something that stands out to me is like bog turtles. So you herped bog turtles, and kind of is that what kind of habitat are they in?
They live in fens, calcareous fens, and that's been more associated with like projects with work and things like that. But yeah, just epic animal. The habitat is so cool and unique, and then you just mix that with like such a unique turtle, and it's just, I don't know, it's over. And for me, a lot of it isn't just the animal. Like, I always appreciate the habitats they're from. So sometimes when they come from like a really picturesque kind of, at least to me, kind of really neat habitat, I get really excited about that too. So it's like a combination of the species and like the habitat they live in,
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, I got distracted. People in the chat are talking about how nice your house is. And how much better your background is.
I'm a slob and a creep, so. What if all of this picturesque scene?
If you look closer, there's a lot of dead animals.
There's a lot. Oh yeah, actually, yeah, everywhere to the.
Oh, I only saw the one by the TV. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, it's just full of them.
It's a lovely room of death.
Actually, when I'm herping and I come across DORs, I always pickle them. Like, I love doing that. It's a great way to like utilize a DOR, and I have cabinets full of just wet specimens. And because sometimes the snakes, you find them, and you walk up to it, you think it's still alive. it looks perfect. You don't know how it even died. they just, sometimes the tires don't blow out the snake, and they just look great. And if you catch it, it hasn't been out in the sun, or sometimes it's just been hit, the last couple hours, and it's not, it's not rotting or anything. So
how do you go about preserving those?
Just put it right in ethyl alcohol, and if it's a thicker specimen, you can actually inject it. But it's nothing too fancy, really. There's some processes that I go through, like delphinization, which is more elaborate. It goes lots of steps. I can actually show you. Let's look at the. You see that? It's like when you completely
Dumb question. Why is
clear
it?
all the proteins from a specimen and you stain the skeleton with a dye. So that's really fun.
But why purple?
Glare. I think there's a lot of glare there. That's a rat snake, man. One of your favorites, eastern rat.
Yeah, that's crazy. So if you guys, obviously some people on the download can't see, but it's like, obviously it looks like it has like translucent skin and you can see all the bones and everything in it. So how exactly is that done?
You put it through a couple different chemical baths that basically strip all the proteins away from the flesh, and you're just left with collagen. And other than that, you use a special stain that only adheres to calcium. That's it. So it only stains calcium. You soak it in that, and that's a real short version of it. But that's basically what's happening here. You're leaching all the proteins out of the flesh and leaving basically just calcium behind. I'm sorry, calcium and collagen. And you and
that dye goes and it's obviously attracted to the calcium in the bone.
Yeah, reaction. Yep, here's to that. And that's it. So it doesn't, you'd think, use like when you put it in there originally, it's like this complete pink dye. It looks like it's in Kool-Aid, right? And you think, oh man, it's going to make the whole thing completely stained, but it doesn't. It only chemically bonds to the calcium. And and you actually store it in glycerin. This is glycerin. And glycerin has the same like light refraction as collagen, so it makes it even look clearer because it's just completely like the same light reflection. It just goes right through it.
That's awesome.
So when you're herping, are you looking equally for alive animals and DOR animals?
Yes, of course. I would want to find them alive, but when I find something that's dead in good shape, it's neat to preserve it and collect stuff that way too. It's kind of cool. Yep.
So how far into your herping years did you start wanting to do this with DOR animals?
Oh God, it's been now doing that for a decade or so, I think. Yeah.
And kind of what made you, make it in a way, your life through your work and everything like that? Like what made you make that leap?
Actually, I used to be a chef and I was working in a kitchen. And I was volunteering and helping out this other girl who was getting her master's working with Blanding's turtles. I was volunteering with her, going on the field, doing a little field work, trapping, things like that. And it was one day I showed up to work late to my actual job with my waders still on. I drove there to work, taking my waders off in the parking lot. And I was like, man, I'm doing this other thing for free, coming to the job that I'm supposed to be working, coming there late. And I'm like, I need to reevaluate go back to school, and that's when it hit me. It took me a little minute to finally do it, but that was the day I realized that I need to change what I'm doing, because I wasn't as passionate about being a chef, and you have to be really passionate about what you're doing to survive, and to compete in your field. So yeah,
that's a rough industry, especially just with the culture around it and the hours that you work and everything.
I realized there was so many these grown men that were hardworking, but maybe they weren't as passionate, so they wind up busting their ass and not making a ton of money and working way too hard for the money they were making. You get some other guy working some other blue collar job making 3 times as much and not nearly as much stress. So I'm I realize if you're not completely crazy about being a chef, you're never going to compete, with those guys. So
yeah, and I guess to an extent, that goes for most things.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I went into a field that I'm crazy about, so I could be competitive. Yeah.
So backing up a little bit, a noob question. I know you talk about the Pine Barrens all the time, and you do. What makes it so special? I know you say there's corn, but what is it about the habitat or the ecosystem of the Pine Barrens that makes it such a special place?
It has to do with not just the ecology, but it's just the old, geography of the whole place, just having that, all that sandy soil and the plants that live in that. It's really cool. Like scarlet snakes, I forget, they're not found for how far south, and there's a huge gap. There's just so many unique animals in that area. It's really cool that it sustains them. Yeah. We have a similar Pine Barrens upstate New York too. It's pretty nice. Near me. Yeah, them as well.
It's just like a crossroads of a lot of, obviously, it's the northernmost place you can find a corn snake. I mean,
But
you can
why?
also find pine
But
snakes.
why
But you
is
can
it the
also,
northernmost place you can find? What is it that makes it
well, like you said, it is.
just because of the soil?
Yeah, things like that. Yeah.
Okay. I feel like you don't have a good answer.
I don't have a very
I thought
long
this was a
scientific
new question, but maybe not.
I mean, yeah, I don't know the exact ins and outs and why, but I mean that's a huge part actually. Those loose sandy soils for things to be able to bury down in, and it's also elevation and temperature things. You know, there's a lot of things around the fringe of the range, like we have in New York, tiger salamanders. There's like Long Island is just at that fringe of that range because it's just temperatures and things like that.
Yeah, all I know is that, I mean, it's a weird crossroads where a lot of species that I want to find are. I mean, why exactly they're there, I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
But sorry, I don't have a better answer.
It just says, Wikipedia says the area is sandy, acidic, nutrient-poor soil.
It's true.
I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. But as far...
Arborist.
What's that?
You need an arborist.
Oh, yes.
Is that
But I think it all comes down to that soil. I mean, that's why a lot of these species are able to. I mean, look at the scarlet snakes. I mean, they're really cryptic little snakes, and they hide a lot and they bury, and that's what they do. And a lot of the snakes can do really well. I think finding food in those soils, like the hognose, and I think it's a lot to do with that, honestly.
So I've seen a bunch of pictures. Obviously, we have your Flickr, and we're going to post some pictures in the chat. But like mainly, I see just in North America. I mean, you found like timber rattlers. I mean, is that something that you come across often?
Yeah, I mean, I don't just stumble across them. I mean, it's going to specific spots. These near dens and things like that. Yeah, they're always fun to see. I mean, never gets old. They're just absolutely gorgeous. Different color fades and stuff.
Are there like secret stuff out there that releases the special spots to go? How do you know these special spots?
Some stuff is through work I've done and other things. I mean, you can find out if you go to enough spots and you know enough about the natural history of the animals. You can pull up maps and you can do that stuff. It's
and in rattlesnakes, it is a little bit simpler than others, I guess you could say.
Yes. Yeah.
Now I know when we had Jeff Glim on, Glim, he lives in San Francisco, and he was
San Diego.
I'm doing real good, and he was talking about herping out there has kind of almost become not a problem, but there's a lot of people just trying. I don't know how to say this, who aren't actually into it, who are out there to just like dick around and stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, California, I feel like has a different reputation. But do you feel like on the East Coast at all, any of that's happening?
No, not at all. It's still herping is pretty low key on the East Coast. It's been that way. It's because of the diversity. We have much lower herp diversity in the Northeast than there is in the South, and the season is a lot shorter and things like that. I mean, in our own right, there's some incredible things like wood turtles and stuff like that we have, but that you can herp and find. In the timbers, things like that. But yeah, it doesn't. We don't get the same. We don't have the same culture, that herping does in other parts of the country, like the Southeast and things like that. Yeah. Yeah,
that's for sure. And then unfortunately, we just don't have the amount of snakes somewhere down south
to keep people interested.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, how many you just see on the roads down south. I mean, like, it's so rare to just like cruise up a snake on a road here. It's funny. It's very rare.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, I mean, obviously you traveled a bunch.
Yeah.
So what was the first place you went and kind of herped abroad?
First place I went to was Peru with Mark Pepper, Understory. And he's a really cool guy. He actually has done a lot for amphibian conservation and offering captive bred animals, captive bred poison dart frogs to kind of combat a lot of the smuggling issues. But yeah, he was taking people out for a little while and show them around Peru. So I took that opportunity and it was incredible. And he was really just focused on dinner batted frogs. So I didn't do any night herping, which is normally what everybody does. But these are diurnal frogs. We spent all our time doing that, but it was incredible. Yeah.
So did you get to see other animals besides frogs on your way though?
God, I mean, yeah, I did see all kinds of. God, I don't know. I'm trying to think what I saw. Oh, monkeys. Yeah, I saw monkeys, but they were actually always kind of captive by like villagers and stuff. They had them as little pets. It was kind of cool though, seeing monkeys. But again, like not a lot of stuff because again, you really see everything at night in the rainforest, and just a lot of poison dart frogs. But that was awesome though. Yeah.
A couple questions from the chat. Well, first, my question: what kind of camera do you use?
I have a Nikon D750 and a D7000.
Your pictures are amazing, anyway. And then in the chat, they're asking about this terrestrial leech picture.
Oh, yeah, those things are gnarly. It's wild, man.
What's the background on that?
So, people here are used to getting ticks and stuff on them, going through the brush in the woods. I mean, but in Malaysia, they have terrestrial leeches that are just hanging out on leaves, just like a tick waiting for a blood meal. And you just go against, a leaf and a branch, and they just latch on. It's so funny.
Did you feel it immediately?
No, and that's what like a lot of leeches, even the leeches here, you don't really feel it for a minute, and then all of a sudden something feels like a little bit of an itch, and you're like, oh damn. But yeah, you can get covered in those things. They have them in Madagascar too. Yeah.
It doesn't hurt?
No, not really. No.
It's very bloody.
Oh, it's sucking your blood.
They have like anticoagulants in them to help kind of bring the blood easily into their body. So that's why it looks, the blood just kind of flows for a minute.
Yeah.
But back to Peru. I mean, how far were you out there? How long were you out there? And kind of what was your first experience like overall?
Out there for a few weeks, and we went to some really remote places. And that's what's neat about when you travel to do herping stuff. You go where these species are located, not where the easiest place to get a meal or whatever. It's based on that. So you end up in some really interesting spots that most tourists don't go to, which is really cool. I mean, we went to villages where people weren't even speaking Spanish anymore. They were little local languages, and I mean, just crazy stuff. Like one village we went into, before we entered their property, they wanted to go and de-trigger some of these traps that they had. And these traps were basically like a shotgun with a rope stretched out attached to the trigger. So if some mammal comes walking by, it's literally going to trigger it and blast their legs or whatever. And so we wait an hour. They finally come back. Said, okay, yeah, you guys can go. No problem.
Wow.
And so when we were finished the day, we're coming out of the jungle. This group from the village was going back into the jungle, and they were going to help retrieve or help some situation because a horse triggered one of these traps and blew the horse's leg off. So, and these guys, you can imagine, in the middle of the jungle are not trying to lose a horse. So they really tried to find all these. So there's still, there was still these shotgun trigger tripwire traps still live out there that they missed that we could have easily walked across. Just so that's what I'm saying. We were out there and just some wild stuff.
So I mean, did you feel safe under these people's care the whole time, or?
I felt safe, as safe as you could be. Just completely I mean, you're out of your element. I mean, the level of safety in different parts of the world is different than what we're used to, I guess. So I felt safe enough. As far as the standard of everyone else around me was, I didn't feel particularly more unsafe than anyone else in any situation. But some of the roads around these mountains, it's insane, man. I mean, I don't know, you kind of feel unsafe, yeah, but everybody's got to do it if you want to, go to some of these spots. It's just it's enough for 1.5 cars basically to go around each other, and it's just a sheer drop off. It's nuts in these mountains.
Yeah, that's crazy. So where did you go? Obviously Peru. Where'd you go from there?
After that, I went to Panama and Costa Rica. And I just did that by myself because after doing Peru, and I had one with Mark, and he was very familiar with the country. It was my first like international trip, and navigating Costa Rica, Panama is a lot easier. I figured I could do that just by myself, and I did a lot of research and was on forums and just did a lot of recon on these different familial frog populations that I wanted to see, and just got myself there and got around. Yeah, I saw a ton of frogs there, just all locale frogs.
So is your goal kind of to be able to go alone? Would you rather go alone?
Yes, I always rather go alone. Yes,
you get to
Why
be
do you
out
think
there
that
for
is?
as much as you get to do whatever you want.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's tough, exactly, and that's why people go on these group things with a bunch of people, and you got mixed different personalities. One person wants to go here, one person wants to go there. You have your autonomy to do whatever you want, do things for yourself, and some of this stuff, somebody may think they want to get into it, but when they get there, it's tough. I mean, it's like, for me, it's fun, but it's not. It's relaxing in a weird way, but it's not comfortable at all. I mean, it's really not comfortable whatsoever, but it's exciting. And somebody might think they want to go on this trip, but if they're not ready to be that uncomfortable and sweaty and hot, and a lot of things are up in the air, it's hard to plan for a lot of things, travel times, like just a lot of these countries just have a lot of the organization is not there, so yeah.
So did you like stay in the hotels the first time around when you were alone in Costa Rica, or?
Yeah, I was just telling someone this story. I was trying to cross the border from Costa Rica to Panama. I don't speak Spanish, by the way, too, so I've done all this. Yeah, drawing stuff.
Oh, I assumed you 100% spoke Spanish.
No, not remotely. Nope, not at all. So I got off the plane and eventually got on a bus to get that. Figure it's going to get me over to Panama, and next, it's nighttime now, and the bus just stops. People are getting off, and I'm like, what is going on? And eventually I figured out, I don't know how, but I figured out that the border was closed, and we had to stay in this hotel for the night. But I'm just like winging stuff like that. Like, okay, I guess I'm gonna get off this bus and stay here. I don't know where here is, but I guess, like that's the kind of stuff that's happening. Like they close the border at night. Like what country closes the border? Like, oh, it's 9 o'clock. Can't come in the country till tomorrow at 6 a.m. Like, so just weird stuff like that you have to be prepared for, or not prepared for, just prepared to like go with the flow, But yeah, so I just threw my headlamp, went out in the rainforest from little place I stayed at, and I found little caimans and a basilisk right away, and so I was happy,
Yeah, I guess you can't really go wrong in Costa Rica. I mean, you can still kind of make a little trip of it. I mean, no, I mean, as far as you can probably hurt most places.
I mean, you get your bag stolen.
Definitely die or be sawed in half, I'm sure.
I mean, but Colombo, you might die. Costa Rica, you're going to get your backpack stolen and all your shit. Like, you can have that, yeah, for sure. That's a lot of places, though.
So are you like on a tentative schedule as far as, I mean, you have a flight home, and did you fly out of Panama, or were you trying to get back?
So that trip, I had a flight home ready, and I was just like, I'm gonna stay here a week longer. This rules. And I just changed my flight. I didn't even tell my boss. I came back, rolled in a week later, and that's when I was a chef and everything. And I was just like, and my buddy that was working underneath me, I knew he would just step up and like. And basically, I was going to leave that job. I knew he was going to like be the next, head chef there. So that was cool, So, yeah. He said he was like, I figured you were going to come back at all or something. It's funny.
Well, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with this love of travel and love of everything like that, what's keeping you here in the United States?
I don't know, money and I don't know, some sort of stability and things like that. I mean. Yeah, or lack there. Yeah, money is just it's tough to do that. You got to regroup and save, and then I like to leave for long periods of time because when you leave, for like a few weeks at a time, it gives you the ability to go with the flow and learn things while you're there. And I really like that. To have a really strict itinerary to herp some of these places is tough because there's so many things come up that just throw you off course. I went to Madagascar. I was like stuck in this one village for 2 weeks because they had really bad weather and they couldn't take this one boat. You can only really reach this area by boat. And they weren't letting any boats leave because the weather was so bad. I mean, it wasn't bad where I was, but like, you know, out in the ocean, it was really bad. And there was like a huge twister, I guess, out there. You don't want boat to sink. So just stuff like that, you can't, you know, always comes up. So I leave myself a lot of time, and it's hard to leave, you know, for that long for jobs and, you know, things like that. If they don't want you to do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's typically frowned upon to show up a week later. Yeah.
Or just, you know, leave it all for that long, and it's expensive and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, shit, that seems intense. But I mean, obviously, you went on to more intense places. I mean, you mentioned Madagascar.
That's real intense. Yeah.
So you figured that all out by yourself, or?
To an extent, I went there to work with actually a captive frog breeding program. Actually, Devin Edmonds set up like 7 years ago now. 7, 8 years ago now. It's been the first captive frog breeding project in that country to work with mantellas. Basically, a lot of endemic species there, and figuring out basically, you know, what is the code. You know, it's like anybody working reptiles. It's like a lot of these, you know, species. What is the little secret to crack the code to actually breed them, right? You can keep them alive in captivity, but like breeding them is totally different. So there's all these endemic species in the country, and they're losing a lot of habitat. So the idea was, you know, let's start working on, you know, cracking the code and seeing if we can breed a lot of these species in captivity and have some kind of genetic bank, right? And yeah, so he set up that first facility about 6 years ago, and it's done really well. And they wanted to set up a second one in the country, and Devin knew my background and my interest in traveling and working with frogs forever. So he asked if I was interested in setting up the second facility. So I went out there for that, and yeah, I forget exactly what the. Going on a tangent here, trying to set up a backstory. Oh yeah,
so things were somewhat set up for you, but
yeah. So I had a lot of help from him too, kind of just, you know, he wasn't with me most of the time, but I was able to contact him and get information on, like, you know, what to expect or where to go, or, you know, basically what areas to avoid, and just kind of what to expect and prepare for. Because I've never been to a place that is more disorganized, and just everything is up in the air. You cannot plan for anything in that country. It's nuts.
And you just built that relationship through like going on trips, like past trips, basically? Because I know everyone wants to be like, how can I become that guy?
I mean, I built that relationship with him just through actually just captive husbandry kind of stuff, because he kept frogs too, and we knew each other just through the internet and just a frog community. And I met him at some symposiums and things like that for the first time, and we talked, and, you know, I said I got to come out to Madagascar at some point, and he was a field herper as well as a captive person. So yeah, so we kind of had that background and kind of knew each other just through that world. No different than, like, you know, hardcore snake people can get to know each other kind of, you know, from long distances and keeping stuff, and yeah.
So was there, I mean, people just in the chat are saying Madagascar had a plague like last year.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's, yeah, they get the black plague there still. It's.
So I'm guessing like hygiene isn't a big.
No. I mean, I was looking for tomato frogs in this one place, and like they're really bright red, gorgeous tomato frogs that people like. They live in this one region, and they're actually just in like people's backyards in swill. I mean, I was worried about Hep C. I mean, just sewage and garbage and stuff. It's disgusting. And actually, when I took photos of them, I didn't try to take them out of the crap. I left them in with, like, you know, plastic, you know, soda cans and just waste and stuff to really show, like, that's where they're living. That's where they hang out in. It's really cool. It's sad, but it's just kind of neat that this frog that, you know, people hear and, you know, God, and so sought after and stuff is like a little pet that's just living in garbage there, and that it can survive in it, which is kind of cool too, because a lot of frogs wouldn't be able to handle that, you know, a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, and people are probably keeping them so sterile here. And
yeah. If I set up a setup for them, I would definitely have just like a crushed up can and some, like, just, I don't know, empty food containers and plastic, just the substrate, emulate the real habitat that I found them in.
So I guess it's like a lot of countries, as far as, you know, they have trash lying around and the animals are attracted to the trash.
Yeah. I mean, for, you know, a field herper finding an old car in the woods and you know, a refrigerator door and stuff, it's just like, you get excited, you know, it's and you know, I guess it's good habitat. I don't know. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Not always bad, I guess.
And were you kind of trying to get some observations that may lend you clues on how to breed them in captivity?
From stuff that I saw?
Yeah. Well, was there an initiative to do that?
Yeah. So, you know, the initiative was, yeah, to take any kind of anecdotal stuff you have on their real natural history and recreate that in captivity as much as possible. Like, you know, there's tree hole breeder frogs that specifically like to breed, you know, in tree holes. So sometimes it's just simply as, you know, recreating so like a little pocket that can go in with a piece of like cork tube and like a little cup inside of that, you know, working with stuff like that. And it's not always rocket science, but some of it is just like, you know, you scratch your head and like, why isn't this frog going? So that's with any species that people breed in captivity, and why some stuff is rare, because it's just not breeding for people, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, and does that particular like side of the market, they still heavily, you know, have to use wild caught animals and that kind of thing?
Oh, the frog side?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't know much about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's still a thing. There's been some amazing pushes though to have more captive breeding operations and in situ in these countries, which is really neat. And I like the idea of the people can maybe profit from the animals from the actual country they come from, right? Instead of somebody over here. I think that makes it more special. There's groups doing it in Ecuador, Colombia, and the Peruvian stuff right now. And, you know, these are expensive frogs. They're very, you know, they can be, you know, $400 frogs. They're very high-end stuff, but at least the ball's rolling, you know, and that was not happening before. It was all just obviously imported, dumped in, and, you know.
And do you know if like those animals, whether in captivity or in the wild, are, you know, coming down with chytrid and that kind of thing?
No, I mean, it's the stuff. Well, some of the species that, yeah, they're breeding captivity now definitely are susceptible to chytrid in the wild. But yeah, it's another reason why the captive bred stuff helps cut out smuggling, because they're beautiful, clean animals. You know, they're not scarred. You don't have to worry about parasites and chytrid and stuff. You can get this like pristine animal and raise it to your own, you know, your own standards. And that's why I think a lot of people would prefer to have, you know, captive bred animal any day over a wild caught. So automatically, and there's just the whole legal side of it too. They don't have to worry about having it. And so yeah, it quickly pushes out, I think, a smuggled frog. It's just the quantity, you know, that you can bring in. And you know, a lot of it has worked really well. I mean, as soon as some of these frogs get in people's hands, they breed readily, and now they're basically just part of the hobby that weren't before, you know, before some of these projects started. It's pretty neat.
So obviously Madagascar, I have to ask you about chameleons.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So did you come across them kind of when you were looking for frogs, or are they plentiful? Or?
Oh, they're plentiful, yeah. All different kinds. I'm not a huge chameleon guy, but I just, you know, appreciate them. Although I do really love Brookesia, those little, you know, 1-inch chameleons. And they were on my bucket list of just being one of the herps that I had to see before I die. And I was able to see a few species of them, and it's absolutely mind blowing. You know, they're one of the smallest vertebrates in the world. They're up there with them. And to have a fully just functional vertebrate, you know, fully mature, you know, sexual animal right there in that little package is crazy. It's nuts. You know, it's like an invert, you know, it's weird. Yeah, they were, I mean, you can't even describe something like that to see, you know, such a small animal in its native habitat like that. It's wild.
Joe's trying to find it on your Flickr right now.
Oh yeah, let me see.
Oh yeah, and what is this? Seems like a cockfight.
Oh yeah, dude, that was wild, man. Yeah, it's a straight up cockfight. That was really neat. So when I was stuck in that village for a long time, I wound up becoming really good friends with my guide. And so in Madagascar, you have to legally have a guide with you when you go onto their forests. And the guides can be anywhere from somebody that's genuinely interested in the natural history of the country and to just a straight up wino. I mean, like actually stumbling drunk, who knows nothing about being in the woods, basically. But, you know, he can get a job doing that, and you legally have to have somebody with you. but my guide was great, and I could, I did a few trips with him, but not over the full 2 weeks. We wound up just hanging out, and I just did like local stuff with him. I went to funerals. Like he told me that I did stuff that he's never seen somebody do that just came to travel to Madagascar. So I do some really neat cultural stuff, and there was cockfights like once or twice a week in this little sandy area, and they were epic. That was one of the most wild things I've ever seen in my life, and to photograph for sure. But yeah.
How do you, God, you just get such good pictures. This is crazy.
So, I mean, is
These
it kind of
things are
the same?
moving so fast, and you get such a still.
Is it the same, I mean, deal with elsewhere? Are they like betting on this and
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
who wins, like everyone has their own chicken?
Oh yeah, they're betting and stuff. But I mean, it's different in a third world country when these people are going to eat every piece of chicken that's involved in that fight. And a lot of times they don't even want to let them fight to the death. They'll basically call it, whoever is basically going to win, and then they'll nurse that chicken back up. In some ways, that might be, less humane actually, because the thing is constantly wounded and like getting beat up again. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I condone necessarily cockfighting in America and any of that stuff, but when you're in a place like that, in a third world country, it's none of my business to put my cultural values in the society that I live in a society like that. So that's that. But it was an incredible experience though, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you'd be like disrespectful, I guess, to not, to say anything about it. Or, I mean, obviously you wanted to get a piece of the culture, and I mean, that's part of it.
I mean, there was a kid that they killed for like stealing a piece of cattle.
You saw them kill a child?
Not long before. He was like a teenager or something, I guess. Like, I don't know how many months before I came to that town. So it's like, it's a different thing. Like, cockfighting is the least of the, issues, right?
Oh, okay.
So yeah, definitely don't steal anything or pull anything when you're over there.
There was a village that I would have to walk through in this one place where they were like rock breakers. This whole little community, they survived on making gravel by hand. By making gravel by fucking hand. By hitting a harder rock with a softer rock. Literally had like a rock like tied with some kind of twine with a stick on it, and they would just smash rocks, sitting on the ground, smashing rocks. Children to the elderly all day. That little town made all their money by making gravel and selling it by hand. So again, it's just like, cockfighting is not, even on anyone it shouldn't be on anybody's radar. We're talking about a place like that.
Yeah, and so I'm sure. I mean, your money probably went a long way as far as like, how do you kind of support the native people when you're there?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, that guide. I mean, that's gonna feed his family for a long time. Giving that guy money, for sure. I mean, the guy lived in if you saw his house, you would think it was a chicken coop, honestly. And it's just, so money goes a long way for his electricity bill, have a couple lights in his house and his food. And yeah. So you feel good about that too. I mean, not only are you out there, seeing the animals that, you want to see, but you're also throwing somebody, some few bucks that could really use it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Dude, the picture of these frog eggs
are nuts. I mean, that doesn't even look real. That looks like a Microsoft screensaver, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like
one's hanging down, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, those are really neat. I would just spend evenings in that wetland, just watching the different species mate and call and hang out, and to watch some of those eggs develop over multiple days, and it was really neat.
So are those actually the same as far as you see them as eggs, and then you see little tadpoles pretty much? Is that from the same, I guess, would you call them clutches as well?
Let me see. I'm trying to think where I got. Oh, I photographed the tadpoles. Let me see. I don't know.
I may be in a different country now.
No, I'm on Madagascar Part 2.
Oh, okay. Let me see.
Oh, stop it.
Here we go. Yeah, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, the more developed tadpoles still in the egg mass there.
Right.
Yeah, yep. Those are just God, I don't know how many days apart. Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy. So, I mean, are there people who were observing this, I mean, beforehand, or are you pretty, like, as far as how explored is Madagascar amphibian-wise?
I mean, not that much. Actually, as far as a lot of the other countries go, actually, this book right here is incredible. They have one of the best, I think, herp field guides. Or it's not even like a field guide. It's just a legitimate, reference to the natural history of reptiles and amphibians in Madagascar. It's surprisingly, it's probably one of the lesser studied countries in a lot of ways, but they have one of the best books out there as far as the herpetofauna goes. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those places where there's, species that they've only seen a couple times, anyone's ever seen or had one photograph of. There's a lot of that stuff. And that goes with, any reptile amphibian. A lot of times we know very little about their breeding behavior, their, activities, things like that. So a lot of the natural history pieces are missing across the board, all over the world with a lot of herps because they're so secretive and things. Yeah.
So you gonna write a book?
I'm sorry? Me? No. But I mean, if I sat there and watched that one species, I mean, for long enough, yeah, I bet a lot of that stuff isn't documented, absolutely, about their, courting behavior and things like that, yeah.
Well, for such a small country, I mean, to have that herp book, which is about the size of a Bible for those who can't see, I think there's a lot of herps over there and some stuff to be explored.
Right, yeah, I mean, there's only so much time and money. That's the thing to, focus on anything, yeah.
And now, obviously, you've gone into Asia as well, right?
Yep, went to Borneo almost 2 years ago now, year and a half ago or something. Yeah,
so, I mean, that seems like a very remote place and hard to get to. So how did that come to be?
Actually, I would say going to Peninsular Malaysia and Borneo is probably one of the best places to go herping. It's a nice mix of, you still get a bit of a culture shock, and it's there's a lot of different herps to see, but it's still easy to navigate. It's easy. The national parks are gorgeous, and it's easy to get to them, but it's also still really wild. It's not like going to Disney World. Some places you go to these parks and there's a lot of rules and regulations. They want to hold your hand or go with these groups. You could easily, I think, plan a trip around Southeast Asia, and I think that's probably one of the better places I would say to visit for starting out, just herping on your own. Yeah, and it's easy to rent a car, except you're driving on the other side of the road, other side of the car. That'll throw you off, but yeah. I went with this guy, Kurt. You can look him up. I spent a few days with him when I was out there. He's an incredible guide, absolutely amazing. Let me follow his actual stuff, give him a shout out.
Does he do herp tours and stuff all around the world?
Yes, he does herp tours. And he'll do a full package for you. I mean, he'll pick you up at the airport and he will get you rooms and everything that you can imagine. I'd worked something out with him because I herped a lot and traveled, and I was going to be there for a long time. So I didn't really need as much of a full package or deal. I didn't need anybody to really set everything up for me. I just wanted to have him meet me and, do a couple hardcore nights out in the field and find some stuff, and which we did. I mean, he can put you on some animals, and he's an incredible photographer too. If that's your thing. Learn a lot from him.
So what were you guys targeting, and what did you end up seeing?
So I really wanted to see some of the venomous snakes out there. That was a big thing for me. I wanted to see Wallace's flying frog. That was a huge frog on my list. That's the #1 frog. I'm trying to see. Let me see.
Well, what is this dinosaur bug-looking thing?
You go to my albums.
Looks like a trilobite.
Looks like a dinosaur bug.
Oh, what? Oh, yeah. They actually call those trilobite beetles.
Hey, what are you doing?
It's definitely kind of iconic invertebrate to see in Borneo, Malaysia.
And it just has the most primitive little stick legs, and it just looks so helpless.
Yeah.
He just has a picture of it flopped over on its back.
Yeah.
It looks like it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, those are really cool. That's one of the things that like I'd see other people take photos of, and just like you couldn't even imagine seeing one of them. Boom, you're just poking around, and below that's Wallace's flying frog. That was like definitely probably the number one species that I wanted to find when I was there, and that's just really neat. Like Alfred Russel Wallace actually was the first person to ever find that frog, and I really like. So it was really neat to see that, the big webbed feet are gliding down from the trees. Let me see. And that white spotted cat snake, that was really cool to see, the boiga. That was just a really neat find. It wasn't necessarily on my list, but I just came across it. It was like, oh man. Typically I'm more honed in on a lot of the frogs too, but the snakes are probably second, for a lot of these trips.
Yeah, so obviously we're looking at the flying frog right now with the giant feet.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's so iconic, that species. So that was huge for me. Basically, once I found that frog, it was all like, whatever happens after that, there's cool,
Did you actually, will they actually exhibit that behavior? Like, were you able to see it to an extent?
There was one, yeah, I shook down from, was way up in a tree, and it definitely just comes down like it's, I think they really need some space to really glide more, but I mean, they definitely do that. I mean, boom, they get their feet out, and it definitely slows their fall. And they're big. I mean, they're a really big frog. To see a frog like that come down from the canopy is wild.
And are those kept in captivity?
Not much. I'd seen somebody work with them a couple times on message boards and things, but they're not that commonly brought in.
And you're like, should it be kept in captivity because it like glides from tree to tree? Like, yeah, I don't know.
That's more, I think, just to get food and for mates and stuff, But right, I guess that could be said for a lot of species. It's tough.
Yeah.
Keeping them.
So Borneo, obviously, a lot of people are wondering about short-tailed pythons.
Oh man, yeah, I wish I saw one of those. If I go back, that's actually will be the number one thing I want to see there. Yeah, I love short-tailed pythons. But I did not see one.
Did you see kind of the habitat they would inhabit? I mean,
yeah, potentially. I think so. There's some spots that I might have been that they could have been there, but I don't know for sure. I never actually checked later to see, some real tight range maps or anything. But yeah, if I go back, that's high on my list. That's for sure, to see a wild blood. I think the blood pythons are one of the prettiest snakes in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it would be amazing to see it in the wild. And did you see like any of the like deforestation that they talk about, especially in Borneo and stuff like that?
I didn't, because I really spent my time between a lot of the parks, and it didn't seem. And I was in an area where there's a high concentration of national parks, so I really didn't get to see a lot of that. Besides just rural areas where people are farming, but that's the normal stuff. But I didn't see any like mass expanse of like the palm plantations and stuff you hear. But I saw something that in Costa Rica, you just go through miles of lists like bananas and things like that. And Madagascar, you see rolling hills and it looks beautiful, but you have to realize it's like, oh yeah, that's not the way it's supposed to be. I didn't really see a lot of that in Borneo, but I know it's there. Obviously for sure.
Yeah, I just heard about like the palm plantations, and like that they actually have a high, tendency to have short-tailed pythons there.
Yeah, it makes sense. You get it. Yeah, right. It's just this hot, humid, just like leaf litter with tons of rodents in any of those, human disturbed places. Rodents move in, and boom. I mean, you got the recipe for the snakes. I can't believe the numbers you hear about for the skin trade. How many pythons that they bring in still with that? It's absolutely wild.
Yeah, it's like the pet trade is one thing, and we do import a lot of blood pythons, but damn, it does not even touch.
Oh yeah, yeah. I had been looking at a lot of that stuff for that long, but it just seems to be that I don't see a ton of wild caught blood pythons for sale. I think people maybe bringing them in are people who use them for breeding projects or stuff like that. You don't see those on king snake really. I don't really see. You see captive hatched, that are that they breed over there and send them over, but I haven't really seen too many full-on adult blood pythons imported. I think those are done, by the, people who are specifically asking an importer and stuff. I don't know though.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it's just funny in comparison. I mean, it's just crazy. But
it's complete. Yeah, it's like people are so unaware of the stuff that gets slaughtered just for that industry, and they talk about all the attention is on the pet side of the hobby side.
Or especially like Burmese pythons. Obviously, there's such an issue here, but they also struggle in their native range.
Yeah. It really bums me out that so many of these animals are harvested without any, crunching real numbers on what's a sustainable harvest. And, I'm okay. I understand, you have to compromise. I'm okay with animals being taken for different purposes, for food, for handbags, whatever, but it has to be sustainable. I mean, and which is crazy is they're just taking by these numbers that are just, I don't know where they get them from. It's fabricated. They're not really crunched scientifically. And that really sucks. That's not cool. It's tough.
And damn, I just had a question and I kind of lost it.
Okay, think about it. I have an off-topic question.
Yeah.
I know I asked earlier.
Oh, I know it's going to get into that, so sorry. Borneo, was that what first got you interested in short tails kind of in captivity?
Yeah, so actually I saw another field herpers shot of one, and I was like, holy shit. Like I kind of knew about it, but when I saw his photo, something struck with me. I was just like, all right, I'm gonna look into these more. And then I started to pursue them for something I wanted to keep in captivity. But yeah, just another field herper guy, which is another thing. There's so many amazing websites like Field Herper Forum, things like that you can find other people who are like really dedicated and willing to share knowledge about seeing these animals in the wild. Just like the forums and people share things about keeping things in captivity, there's the whole world of great community of people that do it outside, in herp, that are a great resource. So I actually build a lot of my travel itinerary around those people and reaching out to them and messaging them and asking questions and just reading forum posts. The same process you go through when you want to, acquire a new animal and do the right research on keeping it, and same thing to go see them in the wild.
So, I mean, you obviously don't keep in like great numbers, do you? You're just kind of like dipping your toe into the short tail stuff, or?
Yeah, I have a Borneo and a blood. That's it right now. I really want a Sumatran. That's next.
You're just gonna complete the complex.
Yep. That's the goal.
And if you think about it, I mean, that's a good low maintenance pet, probably a lot better than amphibians had, being able to leave for a week or two.
Yeah, well, actually, the poison dart frogs are cool. When you set up a bib for them, besides feeding them, I mean, it's just hands off.
Sure.
These frogs are so small, they produce such little waste that it just goes into the soil and the plants use it. That's its beauty, and it's a beautiful thing. But even then, you could put in enough fruit flies and if you have a really good springtail, situation going on, you can leave for a long time. The frogs will be all right. It's pretty cool. So, but other than that, and I don't know any other captive herp you can work with besides poison dart frogs for that kind of situation works. There's just nothing else I don't think out there like that. But second to that, yeah, probably the blood pythons, except for when they piss. It's so much. I mean, you not want them sitting in that, in the urinate. It's not good. In some ways, I think I thought a lot about this. If I did leave, who would need what kind of care? And, everybody knows they don't go to the bathroom very much, but when they do urinate, that'd be really bad for them to sit in. Where some of the other snakes, they produce such little waste that they get away from it or something. So I don't know.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on kind of, obviously keeping dart frogs?
Yeah.
Did you keep bioactive? Obviously, it seems like you lean that way, but.
That bioactive thing is so funny to me. So, I was working with dart frogs and keeping, really elaborate vivariums for years. And then I was doing all my field work, traveling around, and I had to cut back on my collections. I wasn't home, and I was, taking seasonal jobs all around the country a few months at a time. And so I basically cut back all my collection to basically zero frogs. And then I just started putting all my focus on traveling and my money into that instead of buying, herps and gear. And then I come back and I'm poking around again, looking into the, the hobby, and I start seeing, like, what is this bioactive crap? What is this like terminology? That term was even used before, and I'm like, this doesn't seem right. Something just weren't adding up, and I'm just like seeing little things here and there. I'm like, what are people now putting snakes in these bioactive setups? And I don't know. I don't get it. I think it doesn't work for a lot of these animals. I think people want to use them for it. It just really doesn't. I don't get it. And I see, like, isopods were huge. I know, like, for a while, like, remember when dark frog people first started, like, getting isopods, some had, there were real small ones, basically, frogs could eat them. But now people want them to, I guess, for cleanup crews, for their setups. I just don't see how it's possible. And the setup would have to be so large. I don't know.
Well, yeah, anything other than for a dart frog, I don't know.
Yeah, and when I first saw it, I was just like, this has got to be some shit like Zoom Ed, like some marketing thing. Like, it has to be some, like, marketing thing. It's not real. But it's like it's not. It's really just like a certain part of the community, I guess, that is into it. And I just don't think it's possible. And the people I've heard, argue for it, they're saying you still have to intervene somewhat. You're taking this out and that out. I don't know. I think it's just a good way to, like, miss things and slip up and have a house to grow bacteria and, so.
But from the dart frog perspective, I mean, you set them up pretty much like someone would set up bioactive.
Oh yeah, and they're good to go. I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, like, harmony in a situation like that you can get. And there's little geckos you could do it with. There are some things. Actually, those Brachysia chameleons, you can do it with them. People set up big tanks for them. But just, I don't know when people decided to move it into things the size of, like, corn snakes or bigger. I don't understand how that works. I don't think it does, actually. So
are you a keeper as far as bloods go? Are you a newspaper guy or?
Yep. Oh yeah. I don't see how you can do anything else, honestly. Or just spend a lot of money on substrate, right?
Yeah.
But you got all the cocoa, right? So you'd be good to go. You got all that cocoa fiber. You got a warehouse.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I use it just because that's
sure.
what we got at this point, and it's just if I have one snake go to the bathroom, I don't need it to be a disaster. It can absorb,
sure,
and then I can clean it up, and it makes it just a little bit easier on me, and just allows them to burrow. So, but if you're messing with something like a blood python, it's not really gonna burrow. It's just gonna go into its hide.
Are you selling the stuff that's, like, kind of chunked, or is that what it is? The kind of the pieces?
Yeah, like we do chips and the core, the kind of like dirt soil type.
Yeah, I really like both. But I really like I just started using the stuff that's more like chips. Actually, I have my doom rolls in that, and I like that stuff a lot. And I used to use the other stuff for frogs constantly. I still use for pixie frogs, the powdery stuff.
Yeah, for me it's easy, and in the northeast, obviously the humidity situation, especially right now, is pretty rough. I'm sure you feel that with your short tails.
Yep. And you can adjust that. It seems to be with the chunk stuff. Absorb some water, but it also will evaporate in time. So it's not gonna be like waterlogged. It holds a little humidity and then it will go away. At least with where I have mine.
Mm-hmm. So as far as keeping, obviously you said you have a Madagascar ground boa.
Yep. Or I think actually, what is the common name for? I think the true ground boa. Doom rolls. It's common name issue, but like because there's two, they're very similar, and like the common name for the true ground boa is different. It's a different species, I think, but I don't know. But yeah, I got the doom rolls though.
Okay. So and those are also from Madagascar. Correct?
Yes. I really want the Sanzinia though. Those are awesome, but those are just so rare. Man, that snake.
Oh yeah, you saw one.
Yes, I saw a lot of them actually. I saw little red, hatchling juveniles up to massive adults, huge snakes. And that's of all the snakes I've ever seen all over the world. That one is probably the one that like really stuck with me. Just the colors, its disposition, just everything. It was a super cool animal, and I remember coming back and looking up and see if they were in the hobby, and I was like, well, they are, but it's really the one that's really around more is the one that's more like tan colored and yellow, and the greens are just really hard to find. They're like what are they, $1,000, just $800 a piece, I think, 7 to 1,000, yeah.
I think at least. I think that's the Mandarin phase is the yellow one,
Yes,
and then the green one. They call it, maybe they just call it green. I don't know.
Yeah, green phase. Like those are just hard to find. Even if you had them, I mean, you could have the money all day for them. You just can't find them because nobody really breeds them. So someday.
Who's trying to find? I don't know if it's Dan or Brandon or someone in the chat.
Well, Matt Vitola has.
That's right.
People talk about him all day long, though.
I think he was saying how he had just heard about him and he got him like a month or two later, like just after he learned about him, he was able that's lucky. That's cool.
Yeah, I think Bill Hughes just went on NPR and then people realized like, oh shit, what are these? These are awesome, and then a bunch of people got them. Yeah. And now that's probably why it's impossible for you to find any.
And he got them at Hamburg. They were just there, which is crazy to me. They were just
wow.
They were just there at Hamburg. I was like, damn.
Yeah, and I mean that's not an animal that's really imported, is it?
No, not at all. And I don't understand why. Mantellas are imported still from Madagascar, basically their version of a poison dart frog. Mm-hmm. And their numbers are doing horrible. They're losing a lot of habitat. It's not the frog particularly; it's the habitat that's being lost. And they're still imported. And the snake, I'm sure, losing habitat too. But I saw a ton of those. I don't know why they're specifically are not imported. But all the Europlatus, the geckos are, and Mantellas, all this stuff. The Mangaha, what is it? Lemgaha metagrensis, that leaf nose snake. They're still imported. All this stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know why the Tanzania is not. It's really weird. But whatever. It's good for the snake, I guess. That's good. But we'd like to have some though too, and
Yeah. I think that was courtesy of Tom Crutchfield. I think that's how we got the first Tanzania.
Story. Yeah, those are the only ones that ever been brought in, right? That's crazy.
I believe so. I don't know if they've ever been legally imported. No. I don't know. Maybe through some zoos. Someone would know better than me, but
yeah, the zoo thing is real. Like that happened with dart frogs. There's a couple species that are extremely common throughout the hobby, and like some of the cheapest frogs now, and are very prolific. That were originally only, they were imported, only allowed to, under like a certain, contract under like a zoo, and they were leaked out, and then they're just everywhere, and it got to the point where it's like, whatever. But they were never legally imported other than a permit through a zoo. That's really funny.
Mm-hmm. And now Madagascar, I mean, I heard is going to be shut down, or they're not going to allow exports out of there, and I feel like it's always kind of back and forth because they've done that before. Right.
You hear about that stuff all the time in different countries. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that. I don't know. I mean, I think it's easier said than done, but it'd be great if a lot of these countries could set up facilities to use their own natural resources. With these wild animals are a natural resource, and have captive breeding facilities for all these different herps and offer captive bred animals. It would help the economy there and give people jobs. That'd be really cool if you could export animals, from these countries but are captive bred, not wild caught from the country that they come from. But I think that's, easier said than done. But
it's probably asking a lot of a government, in that kind of situation.
People's palms, yeah, and that's the thing, and that's why a lot of animals come in that shouldn't, and all kinds of things happen because that already happens. But yeah, and that's the issue I think people worry about. You'd have these animals as captive bred, and then you'd have other people that are paying people off and slipping in wild caughts and all that, sketchy stuff. But it just would be a great idea that it could help the economy in a lot of these countries, and and have pride in their natural resources and their wildlife and use them in a way that's sustainable. But instead, I don't know. That's probably never would ever happen in a lot of instances. Or you get people coming in with money from other countries, really running the show, and but
yeah.
Finally, you can get my question. Thank you. Total off topic now. It wasn't off topic when I thought about it, but have you ever traveled to a place where they weren't okay with you taking pictures?
No, actually, I don't take a lot of photos of people. I gotta kick myself later. So I'm just so focused on the wildlife, and then later I'm just like, man, I should have got photos of this or that person. But I did a little bit in Madagascar. But but I'm usually like just super respectful and just err on the side of caution. You know, I feel bad sticking the camera in people's faces. But yeah, nobody has really had a problem with me taking photos of them, but I haven't really done it much anyways, so.
But even I don't know, it's like some weird tribal place. I don't know.
Yeah.
They actually want you to take it of like the plants or the trees, some weird tribe thing.
Well, I think those things do happen. I think, and I think there's people that are very wary of a camera. And I think it throws them off. They're uncomfortable with it. You know, they don't really get it. But like I said, it's so seldom that I take out the camera and point it in like a human's direction that I haven't experienced that. But I've heard stuff like that for sure from people. Absolutely. Yeah.
And go.
Have you had to take part in kind of any rituals or anything like that?
No. I'm trying to think. And a lot of stuff I wouldn't. I know people that have done stuff that left them laying in the bottom of a canoe, like shitting their brains out, puking, and just like in pain, and like, I'm sorry, like I would never, like I'm up for anything, you know, but I'm not gonna do something I'm uncomfortable with because I'm gonna make someone else like, it's like you're gonna make me uncomfortable, so how come you're not considered making the guest uncomfortable kind of thing, right? It's like, who's at fault? So yeah, I'm not, no.
You're not gonna drink something to ward off evil spirits or anything like that?
No.
So what were you gonna say?
Okay, so I had a couple people in the chat think you should make a photo book because your pictures are awesome, and we would buy it.
All right.
Okay.
Maybe they can email me. Give them my email.
Yeah, I mean, it'd just be awesome to just have a print, you know, little book of all your herp pictures.
Yeah, you should post them up more on all over the place.
But I'm just saying, like,
prints.
like a coffee table book of all his pictures. I think would be awesome.
The internet has definitely ruined that whole industry. I think I collect a lot of books like that, but now you just go on Flickr and different places.
Oh, but I want them in real life.
Instagram, you know, I just flip them through. It's funny.
So are you just as into taking the pictures of the animals? Because I mean, your photos are crazy good.
Yeah, I just, you know, it's like for me, I just want to have that when I'm back at home, you know, and it's been a couple years and I haven't gone out of the jungle again, and I just go through those and it just makes me so happy. It's really, you know, I post them a bit, but I barely posted and shared half of these photos just because I just really want for myself to just like immediately just my endorphins start going off when I start flipping through my old photos. So just memories and just, yeah. So it's like a combination of I want to see the animal, but also getting a nice shot. And but yeah, and it can be tough. It's like you see the photo and then it looks great, but you don't realize, man, behind that camera is just like you get bit by mosquitoes, you're squatting, and your ass is like getting wet in the water, and like it's just you're cramped up trying to pose, and it's like it's dark. You have to try to illuminate everything so you can see it, but if everything goes off, I mean, it's complete black. It's tough, man.
Yeah, but you have some pictures that look like they're in a photo booth, but I mean, it seems like you're just out there with the spotlight in the dark.
And then yeah, some of the albums I have like completely whited out backgrounds. That's like a whole other technique, which is really fun. That I was really excited to learn how to do. But that's you put the specimen on a piece of acrylic, you know, actually shoot it with a flash from the bottom and the top. So it's basically overexposed, and it just really just highlights just the animal, the morphology and stuff. And
were you doing that with like wild herped animals? I mean, it looks like native species. So
yeah, you can bring. I mean, you can actually just bring with you like a tripod. You can attach a piece of acrylic to it, or I use like a plastic tub, like a Tupperware thing, sweater box. I just put the flash in that. And I lay the piece of acrylic right on top, like a table, and then you put your animal right on top of that. I mean, I put, you know, good sized Massasaugas on things like that. It's perfect. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So as far as handling techniques with you're taking pictures of rattlesnakes and stuff like that, and what are your considerations like going into the field for stuff like that?
I mean, for me personally, one of them is, you know, I have to be really careful because I don't have a natural sense to be afraid of snakes. I'm not. I'm just so fascinated with them that I have to really, you know, remind myself that, you know, it's about healthy respect to the animal. Like, you know, just respect the rattlesnake and you'll be all right. But yeah, I'm not afraid of them, so I have to remember to definitely like be aware that, you know, they're no joke. But I mean, I don't know if I have any real like tips or tricks or techniques. It's you know, everybody has different ways of handling them, but, or you know what they do when they encounter them. But you know, for me, it's just remember like don't get too excited, you know, because I'm not afraid. I'm just so excited and love those animals that I have to make sure, you know, I really keep my distance and out of that strike range. Really, you know.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I got totally distracted by the dog in the background during that.
My dog here. Oh, it's a cat back there.
No?
I was gonna say, I think it's a
cat. Must be those bad shrimp for messing with you.
I just saw the head, but now I just saw the cat licking its legs, so now it makes sense. Yeah,
wow.
Shut up. Have you ever thought about herping in Papua New Guinea?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That'd be cool. Yeah. I mean, that whole area would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I was on my list. I really would like to go to Colombia or Ecuador. You know, it's tough. You know, you've been somewhere, it was amazing, so you know what to expect. You want to go back there, but it's also really neat to go to new places and super exciting to experience new things. So it's always I'm turning around in my head like, do I want to go, you know, someplace new, or you know, revisit someplace and do it again differently for everything I've learned. But yeah, Colombia can be sketchy. I mean, that's tough with the FARC and all that stuff, and that's kind of like, you know, go back to that issue. I think we're going to Colombia. But yeah.
I mean, is that part of the fun is finding somewhere hard to get to?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why I think, you know, the last place that I'd go back to that I've already been to is probably Costa Rica and Panama. It's just not like a culture shock. It's not as like wild, you know? So, I mean, it's beautiful. There's amazing species there, but just the overall experience is as much of a culture shock, you know, as going to, you know, Southeast Asia or something like Madagascar, you know?
Yeah, that's for sure. So where is besides, I mean, Colombia, I mean, are there places that just other totally different cultures that you haven't seen yet as far as, you know, especially in Asia and stuff like that, or like Africa or different places in Africa? Interesting.
Stuff that I'd want to see, like culturally and things?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like I'm not really super in tune with the cultural thing. Like I really appreciate it when I get there. It's kind of like a bonus. But it's all just about what species I want to see. It all revolves around the rainforest, basically. I mean, that's where I'm going to stay. I mean, if I had all the time in the world, sure. But with limited time and resources, I don't see myself going outside of, you know, that rainforest zone, you know, around the equator anytime soon. So that really would be it. I don't know about going to Africa, honestly. Probably not.
You seem to have no interest in mammals or large mammals. Right?
No megafauna, no, none of that shit. No. I mean, yeah, you come across it. Like, they're all, so when you go to these places and you go for a long time and like you have like a certain target, everything else like you can't plan for, you know, and it's all bonus and it's all exciting. That's what I love about it. You know, I do love all that stuff, and it's incredible seeing mammals and like proboscis monkeys. I mean, that was super cool seeing them, and these silver. There was some kind of silver something monkey and the macaques, you know, in Southeast Asia. I mean, amazing experiences. That's not why I went there, you know, but don't never forget it. But yeah, I'm not a big megafauna guy, you know, so I don't care.
No, I don't blame you. I mean, I guess you're gonna see them anyway. Some of them.
Africa, you're gonna see a lot of big.
You're not gonna stumble across like a gorilla though, or something. Like you have to actually go out.
And shit. He's not gonna.
That was crazy in Borneo. One of the parks has a lot of. I guess they bring orangutans that have been displaced or had some issues and things because of deforestation. They bring kind of this like. It's a preserve, but without like actual like walls and gates. But because they're taken care of and fed or something, they kind of stay within the borders of this facility, at least in the grounds, from what I understand. And when you get there, there's a huge billboard like size sign, but lower to the ground. And it's just big photos of like real graphic shots of people that have been torn up by orangutans. And it's just like, do not get too close to these animals. But it's awesome. Like that would not happen, you know, in America, right? It would like they would never let you get like that's
they put a fence around it immediately.
Like if you go near it, this is what's going to happen. But you can go near it if you want to. You can imagine that, like here, like it's insane. And that's the stuff I love. I like just going and it's just refreshing, kind of being in those situations, and it's fun.
Freedom, scary freedom.
Yeah, exactly. Scary freedom. Yep. If I was president, that's what I'd run on. Scary freedom.
Do whatever you want, but you may suffer the consequences.
Make America scary again. That'd be.
America is scary. But I had no follow-up to that. I said right. I had nothing else to say.
So did you end up seeing an orangutan though?
No. Actually, I did, but it was in like some type of kind of zoo thing. So I won't even. Yeah, it's not even. I didn't want to go to that, but other person.
What are
World zoos
Borneo zoos like?
No, they're nice. They're really nice facilities. Yeah, they're legit. I'm sure. They get a lot of attention. It's not like a place that's going to have a shabby, untaken care of, facility. Yeah, there was a lot of resources there for that. And there's a lot of attention and help with orangutans, I think, internationally, So I'm sure a lot of other animals benefited probably at that facility based on the orangutans, honestly. I think they probably get all the money and support and attention, which, it's awesome. They're incredible.
Yeah, I'm sure if you save the habitat for the orangutans, you're also helping, everything around there.
Sure.
Even though no one gives a shit, I'm sure, about all the frogs or
all the venomous snakes and all that stuff.
Yeah. So the chat, Ryan asked, do you have a hit list in the U.S. of places that you'd like to herp?
So the only place that I haven't even traveled to in general is hardcore Southwest, like New Mexico, Arizona, like real deserts. I actually spent a while in Oklahoma, and that was the closest I got to the Southwest and things like that. But I'd love to explore and herp the Southwest. That'd be really neat.
Yeah, I guess that's its own thing as far as West Texas and then Arizona, New Mexico, and
Southern California.
That's a lot of trips just alone.
Yeah, I mean, just in that general region of the Southwest, I would love to just be in one of those spots and just experience that ecosystem. And for me, a lot of it is, even if I spend, the whole trip barely even seeing a herp, but just being in a unique habitat like that that's different is just so fascinating, and everything that makes it up, the climate and the different plants and just the whole thing is really cool to me. So, yeah, I really love that. That's why even just going down to the New Jersey Pine Barrens is so cool. You don't go very far and have such an extreme kind of habitat change. It's really unique,
Yeah, I think I need to go this year. I don't know if you're coming, but
we'll go.
I told you, go.
I need to find a corn snake. I don't know why
you're trying to take me with you. That's not going to be fun for either of us.
No, I know. I just didn't want to leave you out, but now that you excluded yourself.
I am perfectly happy to be left out of that.
What about pine snake? Big old pine snake. They're gorgeous.
Yeah, I'd love to. I heard that the corn snake, of course, I want to see is because not only do I obviously keep a lot of corn snakes, but it's also harder to find in that particular area. And
yes, indeed.
So, and I heard pine snakes that were pretty plentiful. So
yeah, there's a lot of them in there. Big beasts. I have a buddy who actually tracks corn snakes down there. He does telemetry with them, so he can actually walk you up on one any day.
Oh, dude, Yeah, because otherwise I don't know if I have a shot. I've heard people who have gotten there for years and have found a couple maybe.
Yep, no, I agree with them.
But I just can't wait until it's not fucking snow anymore.
Is there another place in America that's similar to the Pine Barrens that has weird soil and?
Yeah, there's a Pine Barrens in upstate New York.
Oh yeah, you did talk about that.
Yeah. So that habitat, there's Pine Barrens. It's just that one, isolated where it is pretty unique. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of species that live in those Pine Barrens. You go down to Georgia, there was longleaf pine, expanses and all that stuff. It's pretty cool.
Indigos.
Yeah. Eastern diamondback and all that stuff.
Gopher tortoises, all the cool stuff.
Yeah, those habitats really seem to be herp hotspots for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to appreciate the things that we have so close to us.
Yes.
I mean, even I grew up in New York too, and you can't find much, but I mean, a 6-foot black rat snake is like shit. I don't know what else you can ask for, in my opinion. I know no one else cares, but
and the huge racers, I mean, they're gorgeous too. I think we have a lot of stuff. It's just that you have to spend a lot longer to find it. I think we have some really incredible stuff. It's just you have to spend a lot more time looking for it than you do if you lived in another state, in the Southeast or something. That's it. And there's a lot of secretive spots, and a lot of stuff, people keep hush hush, and I don't know any other world or hobby that has many secrets as the herp thing. I don't care whether it's it's really just surrounds. I was going to say the field herping part, but actually there's so many secrets also in the captive part, like, shady stuff people are doing, or don't want people to know where their place is, or, just usually it's around shady animals, honestly. But yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry, go. Mine's off topic, so.
Yeah, I think it's obviously people overseas helped you out as far as herping spots. I mean, but I feel like people stateside would be a little bit more tentative to give away, their herping spots.
Yeah, I've never heard anybody being secretive about an overseas spot, but it's always secretive, usually in the States. Yeah.
So once, did you establish a lot of your, hotspots, especially kind of, around locally? Did you establish those all on your own?
A mix. Yeah, just a mix of everything. You name it. It's a mix of getting to know people, and then, having them show you spots, just looking at maps, and, knowing the natural history of the animal and trying spots out. Yeah, a little bit of everything.
Okay, I feel like this is going to be a dumb question, and I probably should just Google it.
Okay.
But can you do the same thing you do with DOR snakes with frogs?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, most DOR just
flat.
Yeah, and sometimes you do find them, in good shape. Actually, what I started doing before I was even collecting DORs, I was just going around at shows and like, hey, you got something that died? You got something that died on your table? All these flippers and shit, all the imported crap,
That's not creepy at all.
Yeah, you got any dead stuff? But yeah, and I'd ask them, and then I'd bring it home, and I would, just preserve it. So it was cool for me to have some of these species and not having to actually care for them. But I do. It's like any of us. We like them because the morphology and just the different colors and just shapes are just fascinating, and these different herps. So yeah, it was just cool to collect them and have them like that. But then I got rid of all that stuff. Basically, that was all like wild caught or whatever from shows, and I just replaced it with all actual wild stuff that was DOR. Yeah.
Do you have a frog one there?
Actually,
yeah, it's like I can't even picture what.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's like that's why I thought it was going to be a dumb question, because I can't imagine it in my mind.
I take that back. I do have the only thing I did save from the stuff that's like not wild DOR stuff is a lot of poison dart frogs, which these are all captive bred animals though. These are like this is
like all the vials.
Eukaryi, I think it's how you say that. I don't know. It's not a glare, but that's like, little thumbnail.
I feel like if we're going to help you out right now.
That didn't do anything. Oh, maybe.
Yeah, you can see that.
Oh, look at that little baby.
Yeah, those are tiny. Those guys eat springtails. I heard you guys were having. I was listening to it for a while early on. You were trying to. You had some trouble with springtails or something.
Now they're just. Yeah, I just had fruit flies like get into them.
Oh, really? Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, but I put saran wrap over them, and now I just open them every once in a while.
So yeah, I have a whole cabinet just full of specimens. It's cool.
So you have your own little museum.
So the frogs aren't see-through like this. It doesn't strip away all the stuff like.
Oh, you can do that. That's a different process. So these I just put in ethyl alcohol just to preserve them. But yeah, I could do that with the frogs. Basically anything. You do it with fish. My girlfriend did a gorgeous fish one. Let me grab that.
That's crazy. I feel like I am I've gone through all the phasing of collecting things so far in the reptile world.
Ooh, that one's pinkish.
Yeah.
But I haven't reached dead animals yet.
Wait, hold on. Turn off the light.
I remember I used to keep all these like literally next to my bed on my bedside table, and people would come in, they were like, "What the hell?"
So you could do another photo book of just all your dead ones.
Yeah.
No, but I feel like, everyone has a book collection, and then you also have, like, a lot of people keep, whether it's preserved specimens or taxidermy or stuff like that, and as well as obviously collecting animals in captivity. So, I mean, I don't know, we seem to have this need to collect the animals that we like for some reason, whether dead, alive, or otherwise.
Dude, the sickness, I call it the sickness, man. Like, you know what it's like, you really want something and you spend all this time, hours searching for it, and you lose your damn mind, and you spend more money than you probably should. You keep secrets from your significant other about what you're spending or what you got, or, oh man, it's like, dude, it's classic. Everybody's been through it, man. It's, I mean, even right now, like I dove right back into the hobby with, frogs and snakes again after taking a break. And I was just going to put my toe in the water. And it was just all hell broke loose, man. I mean, no self-control. He's zero self-control. And I feel it. I feel actually not in my, feel wild, out of control. And I can't help myself. And, I wonder, if I can go back so many months, would I have gotten way less and save that money for a plane ticket to go see these animals in the wild? I don't know. Probably. And just slowly acquired my animals much slower and been able to go back to Peru or something, but whatever. It's tough. You really just lose all self-control, and you talk to any hobbyist, everybody has stories of just stuff that is just, it's not like any other hobby or person, right? Just the weird stuff that you do, you drain your bank account, you go into debt over this stuff, and you can't relate to it unless it's something that you do,
Yeah, it makes no sense to anyone outside of ourselves, basically.
No.
And I just bit on a megalodon tooth the other night.
Y'all, please don't get into
this. Yeah, classic.
I just want a megalodon
Joe doesn't
tooth,
even need someone to talk to him about it for him to get obsessed. And he's not just a little bit. He gets his whole life becomes about something.
It's the sickness. I know.
So,
it's absolutely sick.
Right now, we always watch a show to bed, right? And it's usually I choose. Lately, he's been choosing, and it's fucking shark after shark after shark, random ass YouTube video. I'm just all of a sudden, and then I come home and he's bidding on eBay on random ass shark.
Yep.
And he was like, just wait. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. You just don't understand. I'm like, no, I don't, because this is not normal. You're just dropping your whole life to randomly get into. And what did you ask me? Can I go to where with you?
Oh, you didn't want to go find megalodon teeth? Is that what we were talking about?
Yeah, you wanted me. You're like, what if we went to? I don't even remember where you wanted me to go find fucking megalodon teeth.
I just need to find better friends who will hang out with me.
But that's the most random thing in the world. Why? Even the sharks. We have snakes all over our house. That's not enough for you.
It's always on to something else, man.
Well, I mean, we're not we don't have the resources now to take in more snakes, to buy more snakes, to do more things. So I gotta occupy myself.
We're about to have a lot of babies in August.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that shows some self-control that you're even you don't have enough space for any more, because how many people that still just.
Oh, if he had don't let him fool you.
Yeah, no,
it's the money.
Well, yeah, our space
he would make it work.
I don't want
he would make it
feed.
work if he had the money.
It just gets to the point where it's your feeding bill is just crazy, and it just doesn't warrant me getting any more animals for the fact that I don't really make much money, selling cord snakes. So it would just be stupid, and I would be putting myself in debt, like you were talking about, just to keep snakes. That's kind of silly.
Or you go through, and then by the time you go with the husbandry, you have to stop because you have other life things you have to do, and then you just become like a zookeeper, and that's not, you have no chance to just observe and enjoy and take in the animal. You're just literally cleaning and feeding, and And that catches up with you quick. I mean, it's crazy how quick that can happen before you know it. It's like, well, you know, I have this, and you know, I already have some of the food in the freezer. They're already making fruit flies, and it's you can easily justify expanding it to a few animals, but then it goes from a few to a very large amount, you know, huge a room-sized collection quickly, and then it's like, oh, you know, yeah.
Yeah, then you gotta feed all of them, and
Yeah.
and I like to know, like, as far as I love when I can feed and know who hasn't ate, know who ate, and like just off of the top of my head.
Right, yeah,
you know?
right. You know, you're too big, you can't even begin to do that, right? That's funny.
Yeah, like if I have to keep records of who fed when and blah, 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 if I can't keep it all in my head, that's probably too much, because, you know,
the amount of people that, you know, keep, I guess it's more just with snakes that, I don't know, they're really disconnected from the animal like that. I mean, they barely even like touch the animal, and, you know, there's other people that are, you know, putting a snake around their neck, walking up and down the neighborhood all the time. It's like that's the other end of the spectrum. But, you know, I'm amazed by the amount of people that kind of really are just chucking in, feeding, close it. I don't know what the deal with that is, you know, because I want to have these animals as almost just like this. I want to be able to view it, you know. I just love just observing them and seeing them, and I want the time to do that, you know. I don't know.
Yeah, like it's not even that you don't. It's that you don't have the time to do that because you're actually working with the snakes. It's just so silly, but
yes, exactly. It's weird. Yeah. I don't know.
But yeah, I flirt. You know, that sounds like such a good idea to have like 10 snakes and just look at them. It's you know.
When you started that sentence, I flirt, I was like, where is he going with this? I'm not sure how that sentence is going to end.
No, but having like the Amazon in the living room makes me realize that I want to see snakes doing natural behaviors more often, because like he will like actually hunt in a particular position and at certain times of day do certain things, and you're like, okay. This is a real animal doing real animal things inside my house.
Well, it seems like, you know, the snake world, some people are so into just getting the animal as some kind of the end goal is just to breed it, not even to enjoy the animal. I don't know what the enjoyment even is. They just want to get breed these things. I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, when I got snakes, it never once really crossed my mind like I want to breed these things. You see a lot of people buying, you know, they never bred a snake in their life. They get this snake and see them on YouTube or at the show, and I'm going to breed this. This is my breeding pair. What do you mean you're breeding pair? You've never, first of all, they're only 6 months old, not even. You never bred a snake in your life, and you only own 3 or 4 snakes. What do you mean you're breeding pair? Like, wait till you breed a snake in the first place. And I just think we should have more focus on just enjoying the animals for what they are, keeping them really well, and let some of the people, you know, who want to really dedicate their time do it right. But it's just funny how, and everybody that says that, they're not actually doing it, but it's just funny. Everyone just says that they're going to breed this stuff, and it's a kind of knee-jerk reaction instead of just being like, I like this animal, I'm going to enjoy it. I don't know.
Yeah, when you stick around for a little while, you realize like, oh yeah, those people come in, the people who just want to breed it and talk, like they come in and then they're gone within 2 to 3 years when something goes wrong, and it all recycles eventually.
Yes. And it's like, because they couldn't even do it, like, because they're not, no, they didn't really want to do that. So.
Well, yeah, if you buy something just to breed it and then it doesn't breed, and then you're like, I don't know, it's easy to give up at that point because your only intention was to breed. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I feel like the mentality that people that start talking that way immediately aren't the kind of people that have the ability to the patience to actually do what it takes to, you know, to breed those animals. And which I know nothing about working with snakes in captivity breeding wise, you know, honestly, just from except for the podcasts and things I listen to, you know. But yeah, that's not my goal.
So I don't think we said this, but we met you at the Hamburger show.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I already it's hard for me to go to shows sometimes and not have like a bad taste in my mouth. But for you who's seen so many crazy different things, like, do the shows still give you the same feeling before you went on all these trips, or like what kind of feeling do they give you? That's weird.
Yeah, I mean, there's always like a really good and a really bad side of the show. So I just try to focus on on the good. You know, I mean, yeah, nothing really changed for me. I think I saw the good and the bad right away. It was always there. You know, it wasn't like something that was very secretive. It's just boom, you see it. So, and you know, from the very beginning, it was a certain community of people that I was drawn to and involved with, you know, immediately. So I was always kind of on that side, and then you see the other stuff happening, and I don't know. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, it's like it can be hard, especially because I mean I can imagine with amphibians and stuff. Sometimes like your only source is to go to these people that you may not want to go to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's like,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, this time around, you know, after I'm, you know, starting building my collection again, I'm staying away from all wild caught stuff. And not even just for, you know, for moral reasons. It's really also just for just husbandry, you know, to have everything basically clean, somewhat clean to begin with, you know, instead of bringing all these wild animals issues and just, you know, just, I don't have to worry about the same level of quarantining and, you know, getting things dewormed. And it's just a peace of mind in having like a very clean, nice animal. So I'm not even messing with stuff like that anymore, wild caught stuff, honestly. And I have more stuff, you know, too, to wait for, you know, for some captive bred. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you're not in any rush to get any species or anything right off the bat, but
used to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I feel it. I still feel that like craziness. Like, but you're like, no, like control yourself. You know?
So I mean, you don't. Did you buy females as far as your short-tailed pythons right off the bat, or?
Yes. Yep. Actually, I got a female. Just based good size. I just wanted a big display animal. So usually, I like, you know, the larger of the species. So whatever species that I'm, you know, trying to buy, I'll try to get the larger sex. You know, because I'm not really necessarily trying to breed them. So I'll just get one individual species that I like, and that's that. But I do have a male. Actually, I bought already a very gorgeous large adult male from somebody in Pennsylvania, blood python, who's already an adult. And that was a great deal. But I did buy a young, you know, Borneo female. You know.
So what kind of, as far as like the people that you got into, I mean, have you talked to short-tailed people, or are you involved in the community, or are you just hanging out?
Nope, just hanging out. I mean, I've listened to everybody in the community, everybody that's like, I think any sort of name. I've listened to everything, wrote everything that I've said on a podcast like twice. I spent a lot of time. So I've heard everything anyone's ever, you know, basically had to say about them. Yeah.
Yeah, and that definitely seems like a cool community as far as, you know, everyone's in it just because they really, really love short-tailed pythons.
And I'm still just so disconnected from, because I'm always drawn to those kind of people in the hobby, in those situations. I'm really so out of touch with the true dark side of stuff. Like, I know it exists and I kind of have an idea, but it's like, really don't even have any real like comprehension of the people that are just into stuff just to make the money and do it as if like an inanimate object, churn out money or something. It doesn't even seem possible to me. I know, I guess it happens, but yeah, I get sort of block it out. Honestly, I just avoid it at all costs. You know, they're just, you know, flipping, you know, wild caught stuff. And you see it, but you know, you really don't understand the human that does it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I think it would really bum me out if I got to know like the whole operation and all that. So I just don't even, you know, go anywhere near. And it's not just about the animals that sucks. It's also just like pawning off animals onto people that are kind of sick and just like getting them in someone else in the customer's hands before it dies on you. All that kind of stuff just bums me out. You know, it just like makes the hobby not fun. So I just avoid all that, you know.
Yeah, because there's so many people who are doing it the right way and for the right reasons, but it's like the small percentage of people who, and I mean, people who are import and flip obviously do a lot more business than most of your just regular breeders because they have a variety of animals coming in, they have a more quantity of animals coming in, they vend more shows, and like, yeah, it's a small like amount of people, but yeah, it can be really depressing if you think about it, because you want to think that you're doing, you know, society as a whole
sure
good as far as captive breeding snakes and allowing there to be captive bred animals. So you hate that there's people that are kind of like not taking that same path, and maybe that's like us being elitist or something, but I don't think it is. You know?
It's just keeping things at a higher standard and keeping them to your own standards. There's nothing wrong with that, you know, at all. It's also what helps, I think, keep people around and really promote the hobby and keep it moving forward. If you keep selling people, you know, sick animals that die, and then in the meantime, we're getting your animals sick, and, you know, all that kind of stuff, it's just gonna, like, the hobby will never go anywhere.
Yeah, it's like we need people to have good, positive experiences with their animals, not, you know, an animal that may not do so great when they take it home.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine the percentages of stuff like that just dies within months.
Especially amphibians, I would imagine. Or
yeah,
that's rough.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
So are you selling your specimens that you do?
No, I probably should. I'm so bad about that stuff. There's little things I dabble in. I just never think about, like, organizing myself enough to sell them.
I just feel like I've given you like 10 different ways to make yourself a millionaire. Like,
oh, let's not get carried away.
I mean, if you add up all the things I'm saying you should
do.
do.
Buddy's like a picker, like antique picker and stuff, and he does shows, and he's taken a couple of my specimen bottles. Like, one time was literally a ball python of them I got from somebody, and just like every single person he says that comes to his little booth, like, they always pick up the specimen, the wet specimen, and so every so often I'll give him one to sell, and like they sell immediately. It's crazy. Like, people love all that, like, curiosity stuff now. It's like very big.
Yeah, plus you get to decorate your home. Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I got tons of skulls because I'm always in the woods. Like, basically, all my free time, either between I'm in the woods for work, I'm in the woods for leisure. So I come across so much stuff. I found a dog skull. It was really cool, actually, last year. It's really funny. I was like, oh, wait, this is a dog. I knew right away, you know, like, threw me off for a second that it wasn't, you know, coyote or a fox or something. But yeah, you find really cool stuff. You know, all that stuff. You know.
I don't know what is going on, but YouTube is hating us in these last couple of minutes. Like, it keeps cutting out. This is so weird. It's been perfect for, you know, 95%.
We've been having some real.
But all of a sudden, it's just like cutting out on us. So I missed part of that. I'm sorry. You said you found a dog.
Oh yeah. I was thinking of other, like, random, like, dead stuff you come across. This year, the dog skull was super cool. I actually put that on my wall. It's hanging on the wall.
I'm glad you already have a girlfriend now, because I feel like trying to get a girlfriend later.
I feel like you've always had these things, though. So
remember at one point when I had, like, just my bedroom and all my dart frogs literally were around 3 of the 4 walls, and, like, have a girl come over and it was just like, she's like, what the hell? Like, you know, you get used to it. You know it's a little weird, but you don't, like, you can't imagine for someone that's never been around anything like that to be cold cocked with a room, just like bright lights. First of all, if I look like some weird, like, a murder scene or something, and just like bright lights and all these tanks, and just like, what the hell? Experienced people, like, where I had dead, you know, specimens next to my bed, and people were like, what the heck? I don't know. You forget used to this stuff.
But I mean, that will filter out. I mean, people that it's not going to work out anyway. You can't hang with dart frogs. And
yeah, that's why, you know, a girl now we connected because she loves all this wildlife stuff and the same, you know, so she did that one specimen, the fish, you know, so we do a lot of the same stuff. Yeah.
Do you feel like that digs you in deeper as far as doing more specimens? Because, like, I don't have someone who would be like, yeah, let's get more snakes, who's pumped about it. She's usually pumps the brakes.
I told you to get more snakes.
Yeah, a few times. But I mean, like, as someone who's, like, also interested in kind of the same things, does she influence you in that way?
Yeah, some of the stuff for sure. It's definitely cool. I never had that before. The snake thing is funny. I think, like, she's like, yeah, let's do snakes. And then I don't think she ever had any clue about how much of, like, a psycho I would get with it, you know? Like, I had no clue, like, how wild the whole, like, you know, herpetoculture thing could be and how deep you can get. And, you know, she likes it, but she's probably just a little like, holy shit, it was a little wild. Like, okay. But she's cool that she likes it, and she's learning a lot. But yeah, a lot of stuff. We do a lot of mushroom hunting together. We're both really into that, so that's pretty cool. So we do a lot of, like, my little hobbies, my nature stuff. We do a lot of that, yeah.
Yeah.
Would you ever think about like filming your herping international things and like doing a YouTube channel or anything like that?
I have a buddy that does a lot of filming of different stuff. Like that's what he does full time. I thought about like he's come to me and we've kind of talked about maybe just like really going someplace and just doing it. And he said that's the real way to do it. You have to go and actually just film it and just then pitch it to somebody and say, hey, like we did this. What do you think? Maybe expand on this, opposed to just kind of my first thought was like, hey, contact somebody and be like, hey, if we go and do this or you want to fund it, he's like, you just got to go and just do it and then show it to them. But yeah, I thought about it. I don't know. He'd like a Vice show, have like tattooed guy run around grabbing snakes and shit. But I definitely want to make it, this, thing, where they, some of the footage they make, they darting back from the water snake and, they get all extreme and they're like rolling on the ground and shit. It would be none of that, like that's the problem. It's tough to have that happy medium of like showing your enthusiasm for the animal and having that be contagious opposed to just the shock value kind of thing. And that's, I would like to extrude like my enthusiasm for the animals, just let them kind of highlight themselves because they're just gorgeous and cool instead of just the like camera footage, it's just like shaky and the guy jumping around. Who's that guy? Is it Austin Stevens that does some of that stuff?
Oh yeah, he's a guy who like he slept with cobras. Oh yeah, he does a lot of silly things. But I mean, he was no different than say like Steve Irwin. I mean, they handled it pretty similar.
Yeah, and I think Steve Irwin was awesome. I mean, he brought so much stuff, especially herp stuff, into people's homes that would have had zero connection to it. So yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's hard because so many people get attention for us, and then we kind of complain about how it's done. We're like, oh, look at.
Yeah.
But then again, like everyone needs to play their part, and he did so much more positive and obviously for conservation than almost anyone else. I mean, as far as the amount of land that he bought, with the money that he accrued from being a crazy dude.
Yeah, I mean, and like his passion was just like you can't fake that. I mean, some of these other guys, you could tell they're kind of like, getting into it for the camera, whatever. But like that guy was just like doing his thing,
So I feel like you could do that. I feel like you could just go out, just put like a GoPro on and just like film your travels.
Yeah, I don't know. This one guy's really cool that I've had some contact with. He's on herping forums and he's a pilot, and he'll actually have the GoPro in his like plane. He goes to Southeast Asia all the time. That's like his routine, whenever they like his scheduled flights. And he always looks tired as shit. And he's like gets off the plane and just gets into the bush just like that. I mean, it's really cool. And he has like he just goes around. He's just a herper like anyone else. And he happens to be a pilot and he gets to be dropped off in these countries for work all the time. And so there's some really cool stuff out there with people. And he could probably have
that's Lou B, right? I think it's his YouTuber.
Yeah, that's right. He seems like a pretty cool guy. Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, dude, he finds some crazy stuff, and he seems to go to China a lot.
Yeah. Really and he's like really low key and like a humble dude, and like he has this, maybe it's just because I like herps, I'm able to just like connect with him and stuff. But I don't know. I feel like maybe like he's somebody that could have a show without being like all like extreme and just like introduce people to these animals. I don't know. I said I'm biased because I like this stuff to begin with.
Yeah, it's hard because for us, like the stuff that other people may find boring from a video standpoint, like we're all into it.
Yeah, he might not have the average just like person through like I don't know what the fuck shows are on TV, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like obviously everyone else wants to see someone jump in the mouth of a crocodile, but we want to see what's going on with the animal in the wild and appreciate it for its just natural setting and as well as its natural behaviors and there's not much that gets that across without being lame in most people's eyes.
Yeah, there's like the voyeurism side of it too, of just being like thinking of like yourself in his shoes and just walking up on this animal, like first you see this little like squiggly thing, you get closer and oh shit, what species is that? And, it's like you feel like you're there, doing it yourself. And it's very raw. It's cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna cap it.
Cap it. Well, I wanted to ask, for a final question as far as herping goes, target species and one place. If you could pick any place, any animal to find that you haven't found yet, what would it be?
Oh man, I think that's tough. I would probably say Ecuador right now, and that's high on my list as another rainforest part of the world to visit. And some of the Found Medusa frogs, the waxy monkey frogs. Well, the Found Medusa bicolor is that big, iconic waxy monkey frog, but there's a lot of Found Medusa frogs. So I think there's some of those I really want to see in the wild. That would be it. But I mean, I don't know. There's just so much stuff, man. It's one of the first things that comes to my mind. But I don't know what you can put in the chat or up on something. I sent you a text message with the dude from that I spent a couple days with, Kurt in Malaysia and Borneo. I was with him on Peninsula Malaysia, but he also does trips to Borneo. But his website is orientherpadventure.com. And if people want to reach out to him and see a bunch of herps in Southeast Asia, he's a man to contact. Incredible dude.
Cool. We'll put it in the info.
In the notes, yeah.
Yeah, in the notes of the thing.
Yeah, he'll take care of you.
But otherwise, how can people get in touch with you?
My email, I guess, yeah. Facebook or.
Your email is?
It's greghunterstrait@gmail.com. greghunterstrait@gmail.com.
And just Greg Strait on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh boy, what am I setting myself up for here?
Oh no, people might be saying make a photo book or sell your specimen.
At least make an Instagram. I mean, do you have an Instagram now?
Oh yeah, yep. I got an Instagram. It's dirty underscore.
Say that one more time.
Dirty Greg with an underscore.
Okay.
Okay, is that fitting or?
Yep.
Okay. It's like I think I saw it. I mean, you posted obviously a bunch of pictures from the field and stuff like that.
Oh, on Instagram?
Yeah.
Yeah. Instagram, I go back and forth between just posting bullshit and just hang out with my girlfriend, and then just I go through just putting nice her photos on, and I go back and forth with just putting pictures of my freaking ramen noodles on, and then really I can't decide how I want to keep it, but yeah. And there's one other thing I'd like to add is I'd like to promote more people who are into the herpiculture side to get out and do more actual field herping, and maybe think about spending less money on acquiring new animals for plane tickets to see these animals in the wild. I think a lot of people just don't know how accessible and easy it is, or it's doable. I think a lot of people just think that's, I can't do that, or you can do it if you just want to do it. I mean, there's definitely sacrifices have to be made and things, but for the amount of money some people spend on enclosures and snakes, including myself, you can buy a plane ticket and see these freaking animals in the wild. And I think it'd be really cool if that was more popular, and there was more of a happy medium between the captive side and seeing these animals in the field. I think that'd be really cool. So that's the one thing I'd like to promote as somebody that's kind of has a foot in both sides. And anybody who wants information and trying that themselves and kind of where to begin, I'd love to help them out and head them in the right direction.
Awesome.
That's a big thing. I think that people need to kind of get more comfortable with,
So guys, if you like outside snakes,
yeah,
go outside and see them.
Well, I think we're kind of the generation now, and I guess I'm somewhat part of that, is that we've been so successful with captive breeding and keeping and having so many reptile shows, multiple times a month, multiple places. I mean, people's interest is sparked more often from an animal in a deli cup now, I think, than from an animal in the wild. So if you talk to a bunch of people from, say, who are 30 plus years old, for the most part, they first spark their interest by finding herps in the wild. So
And it's hard because it's really tough. You spend hours and hours and hours of not finding things, and it's like, and the conditions are tough, and it's hot and sweaty and all that stuff, and it's itchy. And, it's not easy necessarily, but it's super rewarding, I think. And maybe that's just, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it's like it would never work out the way. It's just, they're totally different things. I get it, but it's not for everybody. But I think it'd be great if there was more of a happy medium between the two.
I think it would certainly, bring a new appreciation for what you're keeping. At the very least, I would feel.
Because every so often I do come across, listening to somebody or watching a YouTube video, and like, just some people, it's like you really sense how disconnected they are from that being, like a true like species of something, that came from the wild. It's like, and I don't care about collecting. Collect all the animals you want. I mean, I'll collect as many animals as the bank account will allow me. It's just being aware that it isn't a trading card. It's something more than that. And I think sometimes people really do kind of see them as like collecting like little trinkets or something. And not that they're not doing it well. It's people that, collecting these things and animals, top notch. But I feel like there's this weird disconnect from being like this like real thing in the wild. It's like, it's so sterile, and sometimes I don't know. But
yeah, I know exactly what you mean. But you were sorry, I messed up your outro.
I wasn't doing an outro. But if anyone wants to reach out to us, obviously you are listening to this either on the downloads or on YouTube. So our YouTube is portcitypythons.com. That's not our YouTube. Our YouTube is Port City Pythons, Instagram Port City Pythons, Facebook Port City Pythons. On the downloads, our podcast is called From the Ground Up. You can find it on iTunes or anywhere that you can find podcasts. Email is theportcitypythons@gmail.com. Website is portcitypythons.com. Still have shirts available. Still have snakes available.
And we're working on the
still,
Orient
yeah, I was about to
Society
say,
shirts.
still trying to reach out to someone at the Orient Society to try to do that shirt that we're doing in combination with Riley West Anderson.
That's cool. You doing a shirt with them?
You
doing a shirt with the Orient Society?
We're trying.
Well, we had our friend design something, and I'm trying to get it to launch with someone from the Orient Society, on the podcast. Because either way, we're gonna do it independently and just give the money to them. Yep. But I would like for someone to come on and do a podcast saying what they do and then sell the shirts. I just think that would be more effective. But
yeah, I would think they would be okay with that. Reach one and like get some PR. And
I thought so too, but I haven't.
He's having a hard time connecting with someone there.
I'll tell you what I like about them, besides, the conservation aspect, which is all awesome, but just the fact that a lot of people in combination with herpers are just kind of the enemy, and there's this elitism that, these are things that, you have to have a certain degree in or have a certain background, a certain job to be able to interact with these animals, and they're always wary of all herpers, and only these people in certain positions should be allowed to harass these animals in these habitats. And what's cool about them is they actually open up a lot of places that they manage for people to come observe these animals and embrace people's passion, interest in these animals on the landscape, opposed to seeing them as the enemy and automatically being wary of them. And we know poaching happens, and there are people that do some maybe things that everybody agrees with when it comes to handling, but I think overall, not every field herper is this monster that's going out and taking animals and harassing them. So I think it's really cool. I think it's rare for an organization that works in conservation to embrace people that just want to see these animals in the wild and bring them into their operation to see them. And because they do that in a couple of places you haven't herped and things like that. That's not common. So that's really cool and progressive, and I support that a lot. They do that.
Yeah, it's super awesome if I ever got the opportunity to go to one of those events that they have. I mean,
You didn't go, man? I mean, that's epic. I mean, that's the thing. You can go all across the world, and there's amazing animals, but they're just different. There's not necessarily a cooler snake than indigo anywhere else in the freaking world. It's just a different snake. I mean, indigo is as cool as anything else you can find across the world. So I hope to get down there myself, actually, with them or just in general, get down to Georgia and stuff and herp down there.
Yeah, for sure. We messed up your outro again.
No.
We keep messing up each other. We're like, oh wait, but then there's this and there's this. But for real, Greg Strait, thank you for being on the podcast and talking to us at Hamburg. Oh, by the way, are you going to Hamburg next weekend?
Yeah, we'll be there.
Cool. We're going to be there. I'm probably going to be sitting in Matt's chair again like last time because it's much more comfortable.
Cool.
But yeah, we'll see you there. And anyone else, we will be not vending, but going to Hamburg. So if you're in the area.
Or if you want some chip, I'll be bringing some chip around.
Oh, you're just
Get
going to
real
walk around
chippy.
with chip around the show?
I mean,
Bags.
Okay. Are you saying you can meet someone at the show?
yes,
and
yes, we
do
can
that?
meet
Is that
someone
what
at
you're
the
saying?
show.
Gotcha.
The gas parking lot, just open up the trunk and
Yeah, I'll wear a trench coat and I'll take the bricks to the coat.
Not
Right.
creepy at all. Okay, well, thank you guys for being on. Anyone who is in the chat or who's listening, thank you for continued support. And we will see you next Monday.
Sure, let's go with that. Later, guys.
Bye.
I never know if